Welcome to the Deathcare Marketing Show.
If your funeral home's Facebook page is mostly obituaries, then we need to talk. Families aren't following you to see who died. They're following you to decide who they can trust. The funeral homes winning today aren't posting more. They're connecting more. Today, we're talking about how social media becomes one of the most powerful relationship building tools a funeral home has, and why being known before you're needed starts long before someone walks through your doors or calls you on the phone. My guest is Ryan Thogmartin, founder and CEO of Disrupt Media and Connecting Directors. Ryan has spent years helping funeral homes rethink digital marketing and challenges the status quo. If you've heard him speak, you know he isn't afraid to call out what's not working. And today is no exception. My name is Mary Barnett, and this is the Deathcare Marketing Show. We talk real funeral home marketing, strategy, automations, and compassion without the fluff. I've got 37 years of marketing experience, and I'm bringing you Deathcare thought leaders to share what works, what doesn't, and what's worth doing now. So let's get into it. Let's bring on to the show, Ryan. Yay!
Hey, thanks for having me. Let's go. Man, that was a great intro.
Awesome. Well, I just really thought it would be fun to hear from the man himself. Like, you have created disruption in the industry, and it is such a breath of fresh air. And so I'm really hoping that the funeral home owners and directors that are industry leaders that are listening to this will be able to jump over landmines that maybe they didn't know how to get through because they just didn't know. And you're going to be sharing some information today that's really going to help them fast track their success and help them get the exposure and really be known before they're needed, which I think is so important. So we're going to first start with the problem. So what happens to a funeral home's brand when their social media becomes 100% obituaries, which is one of my pet peeves? What about that is dangerous in the long term?
They don't exist. How about that? A linked post gets 2% reach organically, so nobody sees the content, which means what's the point in having a Facebook page?
Yeah.
That's the simple answer. I mean, it's the single most cost-effective way that a funeral home can reach people. 80% of their business is relationship driven, and then they treat it like an obit, like just billboard that doesn't do anything. No one sees it, no one engages with it. They're losing the best opportunity they have to build relationships. The way you build a funeral home 50 years ago was Rotary, Lions Club, Kiwanis. You handshaked, you went to every church group, you advertise in church bulletins. Like, the handshake was the way that business was done. We now have the virtual handshake of social media. So like, funeral homes that ignore it, treat it like an outlet for obits, completely miss 99.9% of the value that social provides.
Right. And what's interesting is I see a lot of people saying, but at the obits, I see a spike in website traffic. I see this well, yeah, sure, for that moment that the family is looking to share it with their family, but that's not what social media, I mean, there's the key word in social media is social. And so it should be a place that people can, see what you represent, your values, things like that. So, and it's all about trust signals, right? So how do funeral homes use social media to send some of those same trust signals family are used to finding in person, where it used to be, like you said, the handshake?
Well, I'm going to backtrack 1 second because social media isn't social media anymore. It is interest-based media. It doesn't matter who you're connected to, who you follow, who follows you. It is interest-based. So I'm not interested in obits. Your community isn't interested in obits. So let's think about this. If you are a maybe under 150 call firm, you're in a smaller community. So if you're in a smaller community, there's more people that care about Grandma Betty. If you are in a bigger community, 9 people care about Grandma Betty. It is more valuable for you to get the obit to your website in the hands of the family than it is for you to distribute it on your social media. If you don't have other content to support the obit isn't doing anything of value. So yes, you can get a spike in traffic, and the barometer will always be engagement. We have clients that get at a ridiculous amount of engagement around obits, and it's really, really valuable to have them on the page, and they're even bigger funeral homes. We have other clients who get no engagement on obits, and it's not valuable to have them on the page because it's not providing them anything. So there isn't a blanket yes or no answer. The yes or no answer is obits shouldn't be the only thing that you have. And if you supplement obits with generic content, quit. It's organic. Organic wins. It's not social. It's interest-based. And if you're not creating anything that interests me, you don't exist. Okay. So can you ask your question again? I'm sorry. I forgot.
It's all good, man. I was talking about trust signals. So,
Yeah.
what is it about? As you said, it's not really as social anymore. It's what people are
Yep.
interested in. Tell me about like how does that translate?
Well, let's look at it this way. If I stand on the corner with a megaphone and I scream at you, do you trust me? No.
Right.
But if I give you value, if I stood on the street corner and I gave you something that bettered your life
Like
and was
chocolate.
valuable, like chocolate, you would probably trust me more. So the same thing happens with content. If I'm not giving you anything of value, you're not going to trust me. The number one reason families choose a funeral home is relationship, period. It's not price, it's not proximity, it is relationship. I will drive 40 minutes the wrong direction to come to your funeral home if I trust you. So the
Right.
only way that I trust you is if you are transparent with me, you build relationship with me. So let's think about this, Mary. You and I, if you had reached out to me and said, I do this podcast, I want you to be on it, I would have never said yes without asking questions. However,
Sure.
you and I have been in proximity to each other in multiple rooms where we've had conversation, we've built relationships. I've listened to you present to funeral professionals. You've listened to me present to funeral professionals. We have people in proximity to us that have both provided credibility for the other person. So there was a trust factor because I knew more about you and you knew more about me. So that doesn't change in a
Right.
marketing relationship, especially with a funeral home where it's built on relationship. If I'm not giving the consumer anything about me and pulling back the curtains, I'm not building trust. If I'm not building trust, then I have a hard time getting that family in a at need scenario to pick me.
Right. Exactly. And I think that a lot of people in the olden days, 10 years ago, they saw the funeral director as someone they couldn't approach. Like
Mhm.
my clients tell me, like, no one ever visits them at work, right? Like they don't go out of their way to like, hey, you want to hang out at a funeral home because a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. And so they had to get out into the community. And so, but social media provides such an amazing platform for them, like you said, to pull back the curtain. Like we do a show for one of our clients called Dialogues About Death. And we literally go on once a month and we talk about things that we have looked at, asked the public, what people are asking about, what they're, commenting on his website about. And then we create a show about that. So like in cremation, what burns?
Yeah.
People are morbidly curious. And then he
Yeah.
talks about like experiences that he's had and good, the bad, the ugly, like what, and that's what we're going to be getting in the show is like what you've seen that's a good, the bad. We're not going to name names
Yeah.
of respect, but there's things that people are doing wrong that they don't even know they're doing wrong. And I can't wait to share, like, have you share some of those ideas. Okay, let's get into it. So systems over chaos. So how does a busy director build a repeatable system for social media so it's not when I have time task that it ends up being? Is there a
I mean,
system you suggest?
I I think there are systems. I think it's one, partnering with somebody outside the funeral home to hold you accountable and having a strategy. Most funeral homes don't have a strategy. They listen to you or they listen to me. They hear somebody at a conference. They watch a TikTok. They see a video of like, hey, you should be on social media. So they go and they create a Facebook page and they're like, you're under 30. You do it. You have a phone in your hand every day. And so like my response to that is like, okay, that 30-year-old that just graduated mortuary school came into the business. They know how to use a trocar. They know how to use the embalming machine. If the mayor dies, are you letting them embalm the mayor? And emphatically, they will go, no. And you go, why? Well, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs and there's going to be a lot of people that come through the funeral home and they don't have enough experience yet. I'm like, yeah, but they know how to use an embalming machine and they know how to use a trocar. So like that's the
Right,
responsibility you gave them. You use a phone and you have social, so therefore you're a marketer. It doesn't really work that way. And so
right,
strategy is number one. You've got to have a plan. You got to have a system in place that says to post this, when to post it, how to post it. And if you don't have that, then you are just going, okay, I have 10 things to do today. Post on Facebook is number 10. It will
right.
always be number 10. It will never get to the top unless you have a strategy and a system in place to get it there. And
Yeah,
most of the time, that's going to take partnering with somebody outside of the funeral home to put that system in place.
right. Yeah. 'Cause even the youngest is, and that is drives me crazy. Like, oh, you're 12, you should know how to do all this stuff. Like, really? Yeah, so they know how to push buttons, but come on, have someone who actually
Yeah.
knows what they're doing. And that's such good advice. Okay, so case example. So I want you to share a real life example of a funeral home that shifted from selling to educating, because that's I believe that we both believe in like if you can educate first, it's
Yeah.
so much value for your community. So when you've seen someone go from selling to educating, what has changed in their bottom line in your experience?
I mean, I can send you screenshots of financials that will show you case volume, pre-need volume of when someone shifts from a selling message or no message to a transparent relationship message. Because when you build a relationship, you build trust. When you build trust,
Yeah.
you have transparency. And if you have trust and transparency, then I can move somebody down a funnel faster.
Right.
So when we see funeral homes run paid campaigns, it's typically they're partnering with a pre-need company or something like that. And it's download this free guide, take this survey. That's not a lead. Nobody really cares. When it works is when you build a relationship. I've hit somebody multiple times. They've engaged with content. They're in the funnel. They've gone to the website. They've clicked on this page. Like, the excuse of like, I don't know my consumer, that can't, like, we have more data and information about exactly what the consumer wants from you as a funeral home, that you are ignorant if you don't give it to them. That is on
Yeah.
you to provide them. We have the data. So when we
Right.
give the consumer what we want now, or what they want now, they're in the funnel. And when we show them all the cards. So like my biggest gripe is when I talk to a traditional funeral home and they go, "Oh my gosh, like I have a direct disposal in my marketplace. Direct disposal, they're taking all the call volume. It's because they're 795. I'm going to combat that all day and say it's not because they're 795. It's because they're transparent. I know exactly what I'm getting for $795. Let
Right.
me call your funeral home, ask your price. You're going to give me a price. When I say, what do I get for that? You're not going to be able to tell me. So when
Right.
we run paid campaigns with a client, we've built trust and transparency. There's markers in place. Like, we're not showing a sales ad or a lead ad to everybody. There's qualifiers. Like, we'll take a 70,000 person audience and knock it down to 1,500 people. We want it to be as small and as targeted as possible. You know, when you're on your phone and it's like, oh my gosh, are they listening? That's
Right.
how we want it to feel. And you
Right.
can do that through the right targeting because we have all the information, the data. And
Yeah.
then we show them a package price, what's included in that package, and a monthly price. So the consumer doesn't have any questions when they fill out a lead form. They know
Right.
exactly what they're getting. They know exactly what it costs. They're smart enough to know if they add or remove something from a package, the price is going to fluctuate.
Sure.
And I trust you because I've been in the funnel. I've engaged with multiple pieces of content. So, like, when you do that, our numbers, and I can only talk about our numbers, is an 18 times return on investment when we run a
Wow.
campaign.
Wow.
So that's built out. Now, are there things that work? I mean, I could share my screen and throw up, and I can send it to you. Like, we've got permission to put it up on the
Sure.
screen
And
of a
I'll do it
client
in
that,
post edit. Yeah. Post production.
yeah, I mean, we've got a client that came on board in January of 24. They were an 80 call funeral home. At the end of 25, they grew from an 80 call funeral home at the end of 23 to a 120 call firm at the end
Wow.
of 25.
Wow.
2024, they did 369,000 in pre-need. 2025 they did 1,060,000 in pre-need, and we generated $750,000 in closed contracts, 137 contracts through an $880 Facebook campaign. So when you talk about building
Wait a
relationship
minute. How
first,
much of a Facebook campaign? How much?
$880 on a Facebook lead campaign, 137 closed contracts, $750,000. So I have the whole breakdown. Like, we can
That
show it. We've
is
gotten
an
permission.
incredible return on investment.
Insane return on investment.
Wow.
However, like, I mean, is that duplicatable with every funeral home? Probably not. But the 18 times return on a campaign is 100% duplicatable if the process is followed. And so when we talk about like running the play, you could take the best sports team in the world and the best coach in the world and the best quarterback in the world and the best running back and the best blockers and the best wide receiver, and you can draw up the perfect play. But if somebody misses a block and they don't run the play doesn't work the way it was designed. So when you create a strategy and you don't run the play to get the end result, that's where most funeral homes are at. They want to go like, oh, I tried this for 30 days and it didn't work. So, we might as well just run generic content because it is what it is. No, you got
Right.
to run the play. I mean, this client was a client for 15 months before they had a video hit 1 million views. But they
Sure.
got really transparent. They went into the prep room. They answered the questions, does everybody poop when they die? Like, they did the things that most funeral directors will go, hey, that's undignified and you shouldn't talk about that. And
Right.
I mean, I can go on a soapbox about the word dignified and how stupid it is that nobody knows what it means. And we throw it in taglines. It doesn't mean anything to the consumer,
Right.
but we stand behind dignity, but we can't define it.
And
Dignity
we have
is, I'm
and we
not,
have customer service. Like
Yeah. Dignified service. What does that mean? That means I'm not comfortable wearing a pink tie. So if you do, I'm going to say it's undignified.
Right.
I'm undignified by the way that I dress. I've been told that 1,000 times. Like, I don't really care. Dignified doesn't mean anything. But that client, guess who hates that client? Other funeral directors. It's not the consumer. The
Right.
99% of consumers are like, this is great. 99% of funeral directors, I can't believe you're talking about that. I can't believe you went into the embalming room. I can't believe that you show yourself in leggings and a sweatshirt. The consumer loves it. I'm not creating content for you, Mr. Funeral Director. Your dignified wall is, I'm uncomfortable doing it. Therefore, I don't want you to do it because it makes me look bad. So,
Right.
I think that when we lead with transparency and relationship and we meet the consumer where they're at, which is our responsibility as a funeral home, is to go, okay, you're here. I'm going to meet you here and I'm going to bring you here. That's relationship value and just life. And when we treat the consumer like we're trying to give value and build a relationship, selling becomes a natural part of it because I trust you.
Right.
Yes, pre-need makes sense if I trust you. If I
Yeah.
don't know what it is and I don't trust you, why would I give you my money?
Right. Right. It makes so much, it's so logical that, yeah, exactly. And we're going to the next segment about the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you kind of touched on a little bit of it. But on the note that you
Yeah, I'm
said
all
about,
over the map. I'm sorry. I don't
no,
follow a
are you
strategy very
kidding me?
well.
I love it. I'm bing, bing, bing. That's how I roll. No, it's great. I just always try to stay the format so we can, honor our guests and be dignified. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Oh, let's rip for 3 hours. Let's give them something they never got in Deathcare before.
Right, the wild side. And so that's something that we kind of hang our hat on. Like, we created something called the Compassion Concierge, which is an AI assistant that a lot of funeral homes just aren't ready for. They hear the word bot, or they heard it's somebody like not human talking. But at the end of the day, people really appreciate, like you said, the transparent, instant answers. Like, people are used to in
Yeah,
other industries, Amazon, you know, um, any shopping site. Like, they want an answer like this. They want to know what it is and how to do it. And if they're struggling, they're not asking during business hours. They're usually
right.
struggling at 2, 3 in the morning because mom is laying next to them and they don't know how long she's going to be there. And they're struggling about what to do next. So when they go to the website, we do all forms of marketing, as you do as well, if you focus on social. We want to be able to be there when people need you. So when people say, my mom might be dying tonight, I don't know what to do, the bot, we call it Compassion Concierge, answers and says, I'm so sorry you're going through this. It's really hard to lose your mom. And it
Mm.
talks like a human and answers the questions that a funeral director would normally be picking up the call at 3 in the morning, exhausted. So when they come in the next day, they're not fully present because they're tired and they're drinking 13 cups of coffee. But it allows them to have everything waiting for them when they come in the next morning. Now, if there's an emergency, of course, it'll send a message to the human, pick up a call, connect them, and
Yeah.
all that. But I'm just saying is, we have had some amazing conversations that we see on the back end. Before we set it up fully up, we were testing it on one of our sites. You're a believer as I am. I was amazed, Ryan, at what people were asking the bot. They knew it was a bot because we were transparent
Hmm.
about it. They were asking, like, what happens when you die? Is there really a heaven? Is my mom in hell? Like, questions that were like, oh my gosh, like, we didn't
Yeah.
like, and at the point in time when we were testing it, we thought it was in the middle of the night, no one would be seeing it. We didn't have answers for it yet. And so we were like, oh my gosh, we felt so bad. Like, so we quickly like added the things into it. And so it gives them comfort, it gives them resource, all this stuff. I'm not doing a commercial here, but I'm just saying is same thing. Like, when you are sharing, like, this is how people handle this, it's your own journey. And then you use those questions and you, as a funeral director, you answer them publicly.
Hmm.
Like, the local client that I was talking about, Chris Miller, he said he became a much better funeral director after after his father and his wife died. He said, I grew up in the funeral industry. I lived in this, my office was my childhood bedroom. He says, and I got funeral service. Like, I was there, I was polite, I was compassionate. He says, but when I lost my wife, I
Yeah.
became a different funeral director. I understood and I watched how other people had dealt over the years, and it's a different conversation. And so the most comments we get on his post, bless you,
Well, thank
is
you.
when we take those shows and we like break and repurpose it. It's the
Yeah.
ones that he talks personally about his taking care of his wife and what it was like when he lost her and dealing with his children at holidays and all these different things. Like, people just dive into that because, it's their community. They know him personally and they've gotten to know him so much better. It's amazing, Ryan. Like, I watch all the content that you do with your customers, and they are so blessed to have you helping them because they're finally opening up and showing their human side, and even with all the AI, there's nothing to replace the human.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll go back to like 2013. The Funeral Service Foundation did a study that said that 80% of consumers, when they hear the word funeral home or funeral director, think of something negative. So immediately you have this really big wall that's built up. And we in Deathcare have never done anything to like start breaking down that wall. We think that we have, but we do the things that make us comfortable. We don't do the things that the consumer actually wants. So like when you're talking about the concierge bot, like we have a more curious consumer that is misinformed than we have ever had. And what I mean
right,
by that is like we have a consumer that is researching and looking for information around death care. They're just not getting it from death care because we stand behind this dignity box of whatever that means again. But,
right,
you have misinformation where 3 weeks ago, Joe Rogan puts out a podcast. 20 million people watch Joe Rogan's podcast or listen to Joe Rogan's podcast per episode. Number one podcast on the face of the earth. In his podcast, Joe Rogan talks about a friend who told him that funeral homes are a scam. They require everybody to be involved, and that when you're cremated, you don't really know if you're actually getting ashes back of your loved one or somebody else because everybody's cremated in one year, blah, 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 blah. Okay, well, there's 20 million people that hear that and assume that it's true because Joe Rogan says it, and Death Care's over here just twiddling our thumbs because we can't talk about cremation because man, it might offend somebody, or
right,
we can't talk about like should you be embalmed, should you not be embalmed, when do we require embalming, when do we not require embalming, like. So what we did is we had all of our clients that were comfortable with it stitch that part of the episode and then go like, yeah, no, Joe, this is false. That's a lie. And then give
right,
the accurate information. But we have a curious consumer, the most curious that a consumer has ever been, but they are equally misinformed. And unless we start communicating what it is that we do, then it is a massive, fast race to the bottom because
right.
the consumer doesn't see putting tens of thousands of dollars into a service that they don't value.
Right. Right. Yeah, we did a show on the HBO special called The Mortician. Did you see it?
Yep.
And it's in our relative backyard where that happened. Like, we're in California, and Chris remembers like when it was like literally 30 miles away, and he said that people thought that was normal. Like, they were mass, like you said, cremating, and at the end, the guy had like a pottery urn,
Mhm.
like a kiln out in the middle of the desert, and he was putting like 250, 300 bodies in at one time, and they were just scooping it out of a box and giving it, like, such a scam. So I had Kim Hunter, one of your clients, and Chris on the show, and we were talking about like the regulations that are in place. Like, not only were the regulations before that happened, but since that case, so many more have come in, and why everything that guy did was the 0.001%, bad apple
Right.
compared to
Yep.
everyone else who's honorable and, would never treats this as sacred work. And I think that's what attracted me to this industry. As like I said, I've been in business forever, and military community groups, and I still have those clients. I fell in love with the death care industry because of the fact that everyone who works in it they're doing such sacred work.
Yeah.
I'm in love with them and what they do and how they're there for people at the most tender part of their life, and they're there to lift them up. Like, I know you probably feel the same way. But
Oh yeah, I
I'm
could never do it. I couldn't do what they do
right.
day in and out, but I can serve them.
No.
So
Yes. Yes. I was just talking to a friend of mine. We do Pilates, and she's in the funeral industry as well. And she was saying, she's been in this 30 years, but this week was extra rough. It was so busy. It was so hard, and it's getting
yeah.
tiring. And I
Hmm.
said, I do the fluffy part. Marketing is fluffy. You do
Yeah.
the hard work. And my heart goes out to you that, you are pulling people through, and I'm sure it's taxing on many levels. So,
Oh,
um,
for sure.
Yeah. Okay. So the good. So I'm going to talk about the good. What works consistently? The bad. What is a well-meaning effort that missed the mark that you've seen in the past? Again, no names. And the ugly. What landmine destroys trust fast? So let's talk about. Let's actually get right into. We've already talked about the good. Let's talk about
Yeah.
what you've seen that is so close, but you're like, oh, you just missed it. And then something that somebody did that you're like, oh my gosh, that is cringeworthy.
Yeah.
Can you share a couple of those stories?
Yeah, super easy. Like number one, like getting almost there is like this. So 12 years ago, 15, let's see, 15 years ago was my first presentation on marketing in death care.
Okay.
Um, No, we're 2026, 2010, 16 years ago.
Okay.
16 years ago. Okay. So I've been talking about marketing and death care for over 16 years because prior to speaking, I still had connecting directors where I was talking about marketing. We've gotten to a point where I don't think that there's any funeral home that doesn't think that they should at least have a presence on Facebook.
Right. Yeah.
So I don't think that there's any funeral home that would go, yeah, we don't actually need a presence on Facebook. That's crazy. So we've gotten to that point, and so where we're at now, where it's like, great, we've climbed this mountain of like, I need to be on social media. Now it's like we have to get over the hump of, well, just getting content there is good enough. So if I have an obit, if I have some sort of grief quote, if I have a
Right.
Bible quote, like those things make sense for a funeral. I'm not saying that a funeral home should never do a grief quote because grief is so
Sure.
much part of the journey.
Yeah.
But
And it's
I
a good
don't
to mix
believe that
in. I mean, it's good to have
it
different
is.
things
It's
because
like
different things speak to different people, right?
it does, and it would be better if a funeral director got on video and read a grief quote. That would get more reach. You'd get more engagement. So like, I'm
Right.
not saying that there's not a place for it, but like that's where we've gotten where we're almost there. Hey, at least we're getting content, and most funeral homes think that's good enough. I don't believe that there will ever be a consumer that scrolls through Facebook and is like, "Man, that's a great Helen Keller quote. That's the funeral home I want my family to use." That's never going to happen. Like, but that's the assumption is like, well, I'm putting content there. Social media didn't work for me, and so like I think that's the bad part. It'd be like me going, you know what? Basketball failed me. It didn't work. You know what? For LeBron, basketball is worth $1 billion plus.
You
For
think?
me, it was worth zero. It's not that basketball failed me. I wasn't good enough.
Right.
I was never going to be 6'5". I was never going to be able to dunk. I wasn't good enough for basketball to produce revenue for me. Facebook never failed any funeral home. You just weren't good enough at using the platform to make it
Right.
work for you.
Right.
Period. So
Right.
that's the bad.
And
The ugly is we trust companies that sell us this crap that's generic and tell us that it's going to work. That's
yeah.
the ugly.
Yeah.
Very trustworthy companies. And so I'll say this. I asked a funeral director this the other day. We were on a demo. I was looking at his content. He's not a client of ours. And I said, hey, at any point, do you think that it would make sense for you to pay a marketing company to drive traffic away from your brand? He's like, what do you mean? I'm like, put content on social that takes you to something they own without your logo, without your brand. He said, no. I said, that's exactly what the company you're using is doing. They have their own blog. They're linking to their blog where they get your consumer data. He's like, what are you talking about? And I showed him. Now, it's a trustworthy company. It's a company that he's trusted that said, hey, we will drive leads for you because we're doing it in other parts of your business through direct mail, through this, through that.
right.
But on social, they're driving the consumer over to their brand, which at any point they could go, you know what? I don't need that funeral home to sell pre-need to a consumer. I have their data.
Right.
We'll just sell it over here. Now you've paid them to sell pre-need. That's the ugly part of it. The ugly part
Yeah.
is that we have people that are trying to make a few bucks off of marketing that aren't really social media marketers or digital marketers, but they've been really good in other parts of the business that
Right.
funeral homes trust them. So like that's the ugly part of it is that there's misinformation because it's a quick money grab. That's
Right.
not okay.
Right. I 100% agree. And I've seen the back end of, people that it will, during an audit, like you just mentioned with you, and I see like they're paying for, I had a client who was paying pretty good money for Google ads that the keyword was funerals in Vietnam. They
It's not
did
going to work.
Vietnamese funerals, but they're in California. They're not in Vietnam. So anyone's looking at funeral homes, no one in his
Got
there.
close. Got close.
And I was like, are you kidding me? And he was spending a lot of money because He didn't know. They weren't providing any reports. There was no accountability. He just used them for years, so he trusted them. And I'm sure it wasn't malicious. I'm sure someone was just doing
Yeah.
something fast. They didn't check. They put in some keywords. It felt like, I want to give them the benefit of the doubt. I'm a Pollyanna by nature. But at the same time, come on, man. Like,
Yeah.
do your job. Have
Yeah.
the best interest of your clients in mind. Be accountable for your work, and don't spend other people's money like it's not. We treat
Yeah.
our clients' money like it's our own. Like, I wouldn't, so I agree with you. Like, and
Yeah.
also the other thing, data is so valuable. A lot of funeral homes don't realize what they have is golden. So we
Mhm.
build a tool, Funeral CRM, that literally will capture the data we bring in from all the sources they get, all their CMS, all the stuff. Because at the end of the day, that data, like if they ever decide to sell their business, that's golden, because those families have other people in their life that's going to need your
Mhm.
services to be,
Yeah.
clear as mud. So you need to have them, but you also aren't going to hammer them. Like,
Yeah.
I have other companies that have told me, like, oh, as soon as someone watches this live stream, everyone on that live stream, we're going to hit up for pre-need. I'm like, hold, hold your roll, man. Like, those people aren't ready for that. Yeah, they might be thinking about it in the moment, but give them some space, have some
Yeah.
respect. Like, there's certain things that are just common sense, that where we say the bad and the ugly. Like, I just want people to realize that there's time. You build that trust, you create that relationship. So when you're ready, they know you're there, and they
Yeah.
know about you before they need you, as I said earlier. So, okay. So back to our thing. So now it's time for rapid fire. So I'm going to ask you some questions. And I want you to finish the statement, if you don't mind.
Okay.
The fastest win funeral homes overlook in social media is?
Organic content,
Love it.
video.
Love it. The biggest myth about Facebook ads in death care is?
Spend money on Facebook ads. I need to clarify that. Okay.
Okay.
And I know that's not a
That's a
rapid fire
myth to
answer.
spend money, or you're saying?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
We spend on average $300 a month on Facebook ads. Very, very little,
Yes.
because organic content does all the work. We'll
Yes.
never put money behind something that wasn't proven first organically. So
Yes.
there's a lot of companies that will just run ads for the sake of running ads and spending money, and think because they're running ads, they're going to get something from it. If
Right.
the creative sucks, you're not going to get anything from it.
Right.
Like, attention is the goal, creative is the variable. What works creatively and gets organic engagement, then put money behind it with a call to action. So we can
Right.
spend very little inside of the platform and that's how we get an 18 times return on a $300 spend. And then it becomes a money game, like
Right.
just numbers. Like, hey, if we're getting 18 times return on 300, what if we got 18 times return on 3,000? It works. The math
Right.
works out when you have the right creative. So the myth would be to just throw money at it. That doesn't make any sense at all.
No. Yeah. Why throw money at something that doesn't work? That's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. Like, come on.
Yeah.
Yeah. So true. Okay. The next one is, if you only fix one thing on your website, talking to a funeral home, if you can only fix one thing on your website or social media today, what would you suggest fixing?
Lead with relationship. Don't tell me what you do. Tell me who you are.
Ooh, I love that. And when you say who you are, expand.
Yeah, I'm a funeral director. This is who I am. I'm loving, compassionate, I'm caring, I'm a family person, I'm in the community. The consumer can connect with those things. Like, I don't resonate with you as a funeral director because I don't know what you do, but I resonate with you as a dad. I resonate with you as a mom. I resonate with you running a business and juggling a family. I resonate with you being a Christian. I resonate with you. Like,
The values.
the
I was
more
just going
we
to say,
know about somebody, the
yeah,
more connected we are. And
yeah.
and you embalm. Okay, now that's interesting. Tell me what that
Right.
is.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think a lot of people are afraid of opening up too much because it might offend somebody. And I think if you're respectful in how you, like, I'm a Christian and I'm loud and proud about it. And it's not that I won't work with someone who has another faith. That's what I stand for.
Yeah.
That's my value. I hold my values to that. And so, I think that by sharing those things that are intimate. Now, I don't think people should share politics on social media. I think that
Oh,
not at
no, I
all.
mean, you got to be reasonable. Like, you're not going to talk
Yeah.
about the things that you don't talk about at a cocktail party.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like, if we lead with service,
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't really matter because the consumer doesn't expect to choose anybody and get bad service. Like, they don't go
Right.
like, I'm going to pick that funeral home. I know their service sucks.
Right.
No, they expect the same quality service out of 795 that they're going to get out of 7,995. They
Right.
expect great service. It's not a differentiator.
Right.
What you do and who you are from A to Z in that service, that's the differentiator. But
Yeah.
if you just lead with compassion and service and like, this is what I do, not who we are and how we're different. What's your
Right.
differentiator? What's your core, like
Yeah.
your core values? Like, the first thing we do with a client is we get to the DNA of who they are, not what they do. Every
Right.
funeral director does the same thing. They get a body from A to Z. No one cares.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah. So why should they go to you versus the guy down the street? What makes you special and
Yeah.
makes them, what's the connection they have with you? Right. I know some people like their dog is their connection. Like they bring their dog everywhere they go. It's their, whatever. And people who have a dog, they always stop them. Oh, how is your dog? Like it makes them human. And I think that's the other thing is that we need to show our human side because that is what people can relate to. Right. So that's so important. Okay. And the last one was the future of funeral marketing looks like.
I mean, right now it's organic video content. It's actually meeting the consumer where they're at. It's whoever gets the most attention wins. So best known is better than best all day long. We just had a client. I went to a ribbon cutting for their brand new multi-million-dollar funeral home
I saw
facility.
it online. Yeah.
Yeah, so absolutely
Gorgeous.
gorgeous. But if nobody knows that they did that, then it doesn't matter. You can have the Taj Mahal with the scent generators and the LED screens and the new cars and the new embalming room, and if
Yeah.
nobody knows it, doesn't matter. Best known beats best every single time. It's
Right.
what you do once you get that attention that makes sure that somebody comes back.
Right.
That's the repeatable part of it. But best
Yes.
known
Yes.
trumps best all day long.
Exactly. And that's what we talk about is the systems and the automation behind it. So once you're known, like when people comment on social media or they ask a question on your website or they respond to an email or they send a text, like having those interplays and knowing what is important to them and what they're commenting on and like you said, I'm repeating myself, what's important to them. When you know that and you can lean into it, that just makes the
Yeah.
sale easier, so to speak. But that's really important. I'm so glad. God, we're so aligned. I love it. Okay, so the lower portion of the show is called the fast fix. So if an owner wants to shift their social media trajectory in 7 days, one, is it possible? And two, what is the first non-obituary post they should post this afternoon?
Not possible to shift it in 7 days, but the first post they should make is why are they a funeral director? Most
Okay.
funeral directors have some sort of story. They lost somebody. They went to a funeral when they were 8. They saw the way the funeral director cared for their widowed mother. Like, there's typically some sort of heartstring connection as to why they are a funeral director.
That.
Share that. Share that. That should be easy.
Yeah.
Should be easy to talk about.
Yeah.
Period. Start there, then go through and look at the questions and start answering the questions on video.
Yeah.
It's not rocket science. It's rocket science when you go, okay, I'm getting all of this attention. How do I now convert that into more call volume, more at need, more pre-need? Like, there is a science of how to do that, and there
Yeah.
is a tactic of how to do it the right way.
Sure.
But man, like, turn on the camera, document what you do. Even if it's you sitting at a desk filling out paperwork for 3 hours, time lapse it, do a voiceover that's like, most people don't know. They think we spend hours with a family. I spend about an hour with a family and about 4 hours doing paperwork for that family.
Right.
Nobody knows that. Like,
Yeah.
there's so much that can come from just documenting. It's not like lights, camera, action, doesn't matter. Turn on a phone, hit record, get what you get, put it online. People don't expect high quality content from their funeral home. They don't expect video content from their funeral home. They don't expect education from their funeral home. When they get it, boom, infinite engagement because they don't expect it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it comes down to the relationships, like you said, when people get real and the funeral home gets real and shares that, like you just mentioned, the why, they get emotional because it is so important to them. They wouldn't be in this business. Is a hard business. It's not something that for the weak and weak of spirit, and they wouldn't stay in this business unless they were totally passionate about it. And so if you're listening to this and you just need permission to open up and be raw about why you're in this business and how hard it is, it's okay to admit that this is hard, but you choose it every day because it's your purpose. It's your God-given talent, your purpose, that you want to be there for people in their most difficult time. You're planning a party for the guests who won't be able to attend, right? It's the last party. And we talk about that with cleaning all the time. You're planning a party you'll never be able to attend. And I think that's so important. And it comes down, as you mentioned earlier, to stories. And we're trying to help a lot of our funeral homes, like with their at-need team, to be able to lead with stories. I actually built a little AI tool that helps prompt them to remember some stories, either from their own experience or from client experience, not names, but just stories that they can use in the decision room that, oh yeah, when my mom passed away, this happened. And it was such a tender moment. And when you start telling these stories, people are like, oh, I want that. I want that for my mom, because it comes down to the services matter. I think a lot of people today, they're saying the younger generation are doing more direct cremation because they're like, they just want to check it off their list. It's cheaper, faster, whatever. But the truth, I think, that a lot of funeral home owners aren't telling people is that it's actually going to hurt them in the long run because they don't have that closure. They're not providing their family with that.
We haven't seen the effects of it yet.
Yeah, it's coming,
It will.
and I know my aunt, I only have one aunt and one uncle, and my aunt died probably 5 years after, and it was just timing. It was during COVID and it was awkward and whatever. And so my family, they didn't have a funeral for her. There's so many things left unsaid. There's no closure for her. And I grieve for her daughters that they never had that. They didn't have people coming and saying, your mom made a difference in my life. Your mom did this for me. Your mom's experience, whatever. Because I got that with my mom. And it was so gratifying to know that my mom made a difference. And it helped me with my grief so much.
Yeah.
And I think that that's another part. And again, it's not really our lane. Or
Yeah, but it makes sense. And no, it is, because marketing tells, stories sell. Like you said it, I've said it, and it rings true. And you said the younger generation. Like here, I want you to think about this. Like, so, I mean, again, I've been in death care 22 years. Over half of my life, I've been in death care. I've heard the younger generation, I don't need to worry about the younger generation. Well, guess what? The younger generation are the people that you ignored 25 years ago. And so the reason we're in the situation we are now with direct cremation and no value in death care is because we kept saying the younger generation, and we've been saying the younger generation doesn't matter for 25 years. The younger generation grew up with this. There isn't a family that you are going to serve in the next 50 years that doesn't have access to information in their pocket or in their glasses or on their watch. So like we can stop saying like the younger generation, the younger generation is your customer right now. Educate them.
Exactly. Yeah. In my other life, I founded some software called Brilliant Mobile. And so I was mobile Mary for a lot of my speaking gigs. I talked about mobile phone. And so I am mobile first. And I was like one of the people on stages saying, you're not going to be able to leave the house without this, your wallet and your keys. And people will be looking at me like, what? Like, we have a family phone. We keep it in the car. Like, it's only for emergencies. I'm like, well, what if there's an emergency right now? Your phone is at home. Like, what the heck? And so that's the thing. Like, that is where people are at. They want to get the information. They will look it up. And I read this great article. I don't know if it was Connecting Directors, which you run, which is brilliant, by the way. I don't know if you ever get my emails. I write back. I love all your humor.
Yeah.
I absolutely, you guys need to, if you're listening and you're not on the Connecting Directors email list, you're missing out. It's awesome. Anyways, there's so many little funny things that funeral directors have the greatest sense of humor. I love it. But there was an article that the gentleman who runs, now I'm blanking on it. I actually wrote a Substack article about it. He runs the biggest funeral home in New York City. And he wrote an article, maybe it was for NFDA. Yeah. And he was talking about how the industry is shifting because people used to go to funeral directors and then they would become the arrangers, right? They create the whole event, they do all the thing. Well, now people are coming prepared. They know what they want. They've researched it. They have a Pinterest board for it. They know the tribute they want to give their mom. They can write a song on Google Gemini. Like, they have all this stuff. They just need someone to wrap their arms around them and say, it's going to be okay. And we're going to help you put it all together. Right. But they know what they want. And I don't think funeral directors today realize that they're more prepared. Like you said, they've been on their phone for 20 years. And so we need to pay attention to that and serve them to the point where they are like, wow, thank you for
Life
listening.
is better when you meet the consumer where they are at and you pour them into where you want them to go, because they know enough to know that they need to be there. They know enough to create the Pinterest board. They know enough to know what they want. Again, they're curious, they're searching, they're engaging. There's a reason that funeral homes get tens of millions of views on content. There's a reason we have a client that does a fashion urn walk every Monday and gets millions of views on it, or a
Dan the
pink
funeral
casket.
man. Dan
Dan
the
the
funeral man,
funeral
right?
man. Yes. Like, there is a reason the consumer wouldn't spend time 29 million video views in less than 30 days. Like, you wouldn't get that if people weren't curious.
Right.
And it's like, it's so bonkers to me that, like, I don't know. I think that, like, there's such an opportunity. It is the single greatest time to be a funeral director, to be in death care, to be in this profession,
Yes.
to understand that, like, the consumer has never wanted to talk about what you do day in and day out like they do now. You have a green light to go, yep, this is an embalming machine. Yep, this is a trocar. This is the process. When you die at home, this is what you do first. When you come into the funeral home, this is what happens. When we go to the cemetery, this is how a casket gets lowered into a vault. This is what a vault is. I grew up in the vault space. Like, that's how I got into death care, was Wilbur burial vaults. And I was the guy that installed these stupid lithographs on slat walls in a funeral home, and we expected a family to choose a triple line burial vault because it added more protection. The consumer has no idea why they need protection in a cemetery. I'm in a ground. They don't know that a backhoe runs over mom's grave. They don't know a dump truck full of dirt weighing 5 tons runs over mom's grave. All of a sudden, you show that, now protection makes sense.
Right.
Like, we've missed, like, the whole moment of, like, we spend money on things that we find valuable. And if we're not doing anything to find value or give value to the consumer, yes, it's a race to the bottom.
Right.
It's $7.95. It's a black container. I don't want to take off work. So, you know what? You're going to pick mom up. You're going to bring her back 3 days later. Yeah, for $700, that sounds like a win. Why? Because I don't know any different. And we have families that go to Google, and funeral directors go, well, Google just drives me direct calls. Like, it's junk. It's this, it's that. Well, maybe it's because everybody's blue letters. There's no differentiator. And when I call a funeral home, I've been conditioned to ask price. I don't know what else to ask. No one's ever educated me to know the difference. And so, yes, I'm just going to call and ask price because I don't know what else to ask.
Right.
That's our fault. But death care has done that because we've said forever it's taboo and nobody wants to talk about it. We've made the decision for the consumer that they didn't want to talk about it. We never listened to the consumer about what they wanted to talk about. And I said for years in board meetings at Wilbur, I'm like, y'all are just creating products that funeral directors want to sell. You're not creating products that the consumer wants to buy. There's a problem when we don't talk to the consumer and we create crap that funeral directors don't want that in their showroom. Who cares if they want a pink casket? There's a million people that want to buy a pink casket. Watch the video.
Yeah.
We have a red casket. No, you don't have a red casket. You have a maroon casket. That's different than red. There's families that want, like, so, it's interesting that we've built this entire profession around what a funeral director wants, not what the consumer wants, but the consumer is the one that writes the checks.
Amen. Amen. Thank you for saying that. It was funny. You just made me think of this. So when my grandmother, I took care of her last 8 months of life with my daughter, who's now 31, and she was 1. So this is how long ago it was. And I remember my mom kept putting off making the plans. My grandmother was 97 years old. She died in my arms more than once. And I wasn't ready for her to go, so I would bring her back. And she was like, Mary, I want to go to heaven. Could you just let me go? And I'm like, no, I'm not ready. There's a whole backstory we'll have to share someday over. Yeah. Anyways, But I remember my mom was leaving and her brother were going on a trip to Hawaii or something. And my grandmother already died twice in my arms. And I'm like, Mom, when she does decide to go to heaven or the Lord takes her, where do I go? Like, who do I
Mm.
call? What do I do? Have you picked anything out? Like, I was like, come on, man. Like, I've got responsibility. And she was like, we probably should do that. I'm like, yeah, you think? Like, she's 97. So she says, okay, me and Bill will go out to lunch and we'll have a few drinks and we'll have the courage to do it. I'm like, okay, Mom, but please, after a couple drinks, don't order the air conditioned casket because that's what you want your mom to have the best. I know you love her, but you don't need the air conditioned oh, I promise, like, we'll get and I'm like, okay, Mom, it's your money. Like, do what you want. But I know grandma would like a pine box. She just wants to go to heaven and be with grandpa. Like, she's like, okay. 3 hours later, I get a call. I'm like, okay, Mom, what'd you decide? She goes, well, here's the number. I said, what did you get? She goes, we got the most beautiful, shiny pink casket that has platinum handles and it's got silk lining and a beautiful and I'm like, and did you get the air conditioning package? Because that's going to be important. And she's like, no. I'm like, Mom, I'm kidding you. Because she didn't know, like, after all the funerals that we went to as a child, like, she never put it in the respect of herself doing it for my grandma, and it just wasn't a taboo topic. So they probably spent $30,000. God love the funeral home that got that business. They went in eyes wide open. They were happy to spend the money. But you're right. Like, people want what they want,
Yeah.
and
You
you should
want
be
what you
able to
want,
give it to
and
them.
you want to honor the way you want to honor. And it's like, it's the funeral home's job to facilitate, educate, present all the options. Like,
Yeah.
there's so many resources and tools available. And it's cool because I get to talk to a lot of startup companies. Like if someone starts Googling Deathcare, like they find me. If they AI chat it, like they're going to find me in some
Right.
regard, which is really cool. But I
Yeah.
get to see a lot of product, and I get to see, like, I get to consult a lot of startup companies. I'm like, hey, if you're going to rely on a funeral director to sell this, you're going to go broke. Like, you've got to educate the consumer that these things exist,
Right.
and then find a creative way to partner with the funeral home. Because anytime you're relying on somebody to sell your product for you, then you've lost control. And so, funeral directors are great, and I love them. And you could probably tell through this conversation that I'm not for every funeral home. I have zero desire to work with every funeral home.
Oh, me
Like,
too.
there's a right funeral home that's going to partner with us, and there's plenty that would never make sense,
Right.
and that's fine. And I'm comfortable with that. But, like, I fully believe the reason we spend so much time and energy, and we have a team of 31 people that create organic content, over 8,000 posts a month for funeral homes across the country. We engage 10
Wow.
million consumers a month over
Wow.
the age of 55. The reason that we do that, I would make a lot more money if I just created 30 generic pieces of content, had one graphic designer, one content manager to post all the content, and one person to write all the text, and just emailed it out to thousands of funeral homes for $200 a month. I would make a heck of a lot more money. But at
Right.
the end of the day, we would provide zero value to death care.
Right.
And I believe with my whole heart that funeral homes that educate properly and engage the consumer and talk about the things that they don't want to talk about, but they do it because the consumer needs it,
Right.
that's good for the profession. It's
Yeah.
good for the profession when a funeral home gets 1 million views because they took a phone into the prep room and they explained an embalming table, or they explained an embalming machine, or the process of embalming and what happens in a tasteful way. When you have a
Oh, of
consumer that says, you
course.
know what, I always wanted cremation because I was scared of what embalming was because I didn't know. And now that you've explained it, I really do want to be buried. Like,
Yeah.
that's a win. That's a
Yeah.
win. So,
Yeah.
like, if we treat it for what it provides, it's death care is relationship driven. Social is relationship platforms. Like,
Right.
it's to connect people. It was never built to sell crap.
No.
Marketers like us screw it up. So
Right.
the
We
goal
always screw
is
up
to
everything.
the goal is to educate and build relationship. If you use it
Yeah.
for its intent, you win. It's
Yeah.
that simple. Like, you win by being a human and talking
Right.
about what you do. It's
I
that
love it.
simple.
Bottom line. Bottom line. Hey, let's wrap up the show. Let people know where to find you at disruptmedia.com, right? Connecting directors.
Disruptmedia.co,
CO.
connectingdirectors.com, at disruptmedia, at connecting directors, at Ryan Thogmartin. Like, it's not hard.
Yeah.
If you
They'll
want to
find you.
find me, you'll find
Yeah.
me.
Yeah. ChatGPT will tell you who he is and where he is, and
That's right.
yeah,
That's
he'll
it.
track you, follow you down the street, find you.
Let's
That's
go.
awesome. That's
I'm an
awesome.
open book.
I love it. I know it's funny. I think that's what makes us relatable, right? We have nothing to hide because we have nothing to hide,
That's
right?
right.
I think
Yep.
what do you call it? Beholden to a higher power. So we want to make sure. So listen to all our listeners out there, all three of you. No, I'm just kidding. All 3 million of you who are
Yeah.
listening to this today. If this helped, share it with a funeral home owner who needs it. Let's do what works and drop what doesn't work, right? And we'll see you next time on the Death Care Marketing Show. Thanks again, Ryan, for being my guest, and hopefully
Thank
see you
you.
soon. Awesome. Stay tuned.